This is the public scoping meeting, which is a formal step in the process that transit projects go through. And the purpose of the scoping meeting is to open things up and give everyone the opportunity to look inside at what we're doing and offer comments, suggestions, ideas, and ask questions. It's a lot like a public meeting, except this is a more formal meeting, more like a public hearing, where your comments will be recorded. We have stenographers, and you can also provide written comments. And I'll also talk about the comment period, where you can make those comments, and whether you speak tonight into the public record here in this room in front of everyone, or you speak into the public record in a private testimony room just off the public open house room, or whether you write to us within the comment period, it all counts the same. They are all comments that will be entered into the record and will be part of what we think about and talk about as we go through what we have to do. So the scoping meeting is for this project specifically. It's associated with the environmental impact statement. This is the draft environmental impact statement. It also includes other things like a Section 4F evaluation, and considers a lot of other laws and regulations that are rolled into this process. So SEPTA and the Federal Transit Administration, or FTA, are preparing this environmental impact statement and following all of the rules and regulations of the legislation and the implementation regulations. We filed a notice of intent, which is a formal announcement in the Federal Register following the federal process, to let everyone know that we are beginning this process, this National Environmental Policy Act process, and that announcing what steps we'll be doing, and that the public record is open for comment. This notice appeared in the Federal Register on June 27th, and we also published legal notices to let everyone know what we're doing in the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Norristown Times-Herald, the King of Prussia Courier, and the Mainline Times. Those are sort of the legal official notifications. We've also done mailings, we have a website, and you'll hear all about that from the rest of the team tonight. As you know, the project's located in Upper Merion Township and provides connections to Bridgeport, Norristown, and all the way down, following the existing alignment down to 69th Street, the 69th Street Terminal in Upper Darby. So the purpose of the scoping meeting, as I said, is to solicit your input, and we'll be specifically talking about the purpose and need, which is an official requirement, and that's been completed and is available tonight. We'll also be soliciting your input on the alternatives or alignments, and we have maps that show those in the other room for you to look at and ask questions. And we'll also be asking for input on our analysis of impacts, all of the impacts on natural resources, cultural resources, and community resources. And at some point that will also include mitigation of impacts. So this formal presentation and opportunity to make comments, of course, is preceded by the open house meeting, which most of you were there talking with us, and the open house will follow this meeting. So at any time you can go back out into the open house and look at the displays and talk with our staff. Okay, the public record for the scoping process is open until August 14th. So that means any comments you give us written after this meeting, I guess, will be entered into the public record until August 14th. And all of those will be compiled by SEPTA and the team, will be looked at, and we will prepare some kind of response or comments to any substantive, thoughtful comment. You can email comments We have comment cards, which you can fill out and leave with us tonight, or fill out and send to us. And you can also submit comments through emails and so on through the website. And we provide that information on the handout materials there. We have a newsletter, we have the comment form, and we've also prepared some copies of some other documents for you to look at that I mentioned. So with that, I'll turn things over to Byron Kamadi, Project Director at SEPTA, and the Project Manager, Shelley Fialkoff, for this presentation. Thanks.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending. My name is Byron Kamadi. I'm Director of Strategic Planning for SEPTA. And what we're going to do tonight is present to you several things. It's probably about a 25-30 minute presentation. I hope you find it illuminating. I hope you find it helpful in understanding where we are in this process. I would like to emphasize at this point, this is a planning process and an environmental review process. It is not a design process, and it is not a construction process. We are many years away from engineering and design. And you'll see a timeline graphic that will depict this very forcefully. SEPTA has many assets in the region. I'm sure you're all aware of that. We're extremely blessed with those assets from legacy systems that we inherited over the last 25, 30 years. And SEPTA has many, many challenges. I'm sure all of you have been reading of our capital budget woes. We are desperately underfunded when it comes to capital monies, and we at the moment do not have a long-term sustainable solution for our capital needs. However, one may ask, well, why, if that's the case, are we undertaking a long-term planning project that may indeed cost millions and millions of dollars to build? And I will answer my rhetorical question by saying that if you don't plan, you never build. So the planning process has to start somewhere for an expansion project within the region. And even though today, currently, SEPTA is desperately underfunded and in need of a lot of resources, 8-9 years from now, when construction may be finished for this particular project, that situation, hopefully the optimist in me wants to say, will be a different situation. So with that pretext and sort of that caveat, I want to make very clear that planning is important. Understanding the planning process is just as important, and understanding the federal planning process is confoundingly important. So you have to really appreciate that there's a process in a process in a process here. And because eventually, most likely, SEPTA and the various stakeholders who support this particular project, they would be going to the federal government at some point under federal regs and federal transit resources to be looking to have capital dollars to make this thing really come to fruition and be built. So if you want the federal dollars, you got to follow the federal process. Okay, so with that in mind, that's my setup. So this is the system map for rail for SEPTA. I think most of you within the region are very familiar with this. We are looking at specifically one line, the Norristown high-speed line, the purple line. If you look to far west or left as you look of the map, and you see where the star, the pentacle star is, that is the neck of the woods that we're really referring to, and that is Upper Merion, that is King of Prussia. This is the backbone spine of the line as it currently exists, the Norristown high-speed line in all its glory. It was historically the former Philadelphia and Western interurban line, and it's been wonderfully preserved by SEPTA, and it's 13.5 miles end-to-end, Norristown Transportation Center, Montgomery County, north end, south end being 69th Street Transportation Center in Delaware County. And it's a 28-minute ride, 22 stations, about 10,000 and growing average daily passengers. 15 minutes more on the Sub-L, subway elevated to Center City, Philadelphia, going basically towards me, looking as you're looking to the east. So you do have some institutions that are on the line, very close to the line. It actually is what I like to call colloquially the mainline backdoor, because it does mimic and follow the geography of the Pennsylvania Railroad main line, which is literally about here somewhere. Actually, it does this. It cuts across it. For those of you that know, you've got Villanova, Bryn Mawr, Haverford colleges. You have Bryn Mawr Hospital right around here. And you also have this infamous golf club institution that apparently was notorious for a little while, a few weeks back. And I would like to point out that the workhorse for transportation purposes to get to and from that golf course event was the Norristown high-speed line, which shows that even for a semi-suburban type of environment, this line basically offers a significant amount of hardcore high-capacity service. And that's what it was built for. It's its own right-of-way. It does not cross or traverse any streets at grade. It's third rail powered, and it can get to speeds of 65 miles per hour. So it's a gem. Here it is on a topographical background map, just to give you more of a grounding. What we're essentially trying to do here is, where that dotted line is depicted, is essentially take a branch out of this main backbone, or spine out of this backbone, and move it west. Here is the vehicle in question that operates on the current line. It is a vehicle that is vintage 1991 through 1993, and they have lifespans that we believe are easily 30 years, the way they were designed and built. So we're looking at having these particular vehicles in service should we get to a design and construction phase of this planned project, and have them operate, continue to operate in service between the two ends of the line, and then, or in addition, operate to the King of Prussia area from the south and from the north. So basically crafting a Y of service. It's a big job market that currently exists, 57,000 jobs plus and growing, and projected to go up to 62,000 by 2040 by Upper Merion's long-range plan projections. 12,500 jobs at the mall alone. Now that number is going to increase, as I'm sure many of you are aware. The mall has significant expansion plans. You also have in the vicinity another 19,000 jobs in the very close adjacent office park that is essentially north of First Avenue. In addition, 25 million visits per year to the King of Prussia Mall alone, and that translates to about, what, 68,000 people per day. You also have at the Valley Forge National Historic Park another 1.5 million visits per year. Most compelling of all the statistics, if I can stay on the page, is the bottom one, which demonstrates the public commitment or public need or public ridership for the area. And that is that there are 4,000 people using bus service to the King of Prussia Mall area in particular today and every day. And that's a very compelling statistic, because it says you've got the ridership already in place. It's not like you're trying to attract riders. You won't have to with the rail line. The rail line, in fact, will replace the vast majority of those riders who now take bus service. And will do it in a much more efficient way, a much more quick way, and also take buses off the streets, take buses off the Schuylkill Expressway, where they actually sit along with all the other motorists. I'm going to read this to you only because it's in quotation marks and because it is a very defining mission type of statement for what the purpose of this study is. This is a federal requirement and is intrinsic to what we're trying to achieve here. And I'm going to emphasize certain key words so that I hope it leaves you with a resounding sense of what we're trying to achieve. Provide faster, more reliable public transit service that offers improved transit connections to the King of Prussia Valley Forge area from communities along the existing Norristown high-speed line, Norristown and Philadelphia, improve connectivity between major destinations in the area, better serve existing transit riders, and accommodate new transit patrons. So that whole phrase articulates a lot of the thoughts and ideas that I have previously talked about in the slides. And it's one comprehensive way, I believe, or we believe, SEPTA believes, the team believes, that identifies what the need is here. Which gets me to some of the things I just said. Faster, more reliable transit access, convenience, and also capacity. We know what the road conditions are. We all experience them at the surface level and at the highway level. And frankly, we all know they're not particularly good. We know that we waste an awful lot of time on highways, sitting in congestion, especially on the Schuylkill Expressway, where you never really know how long it's going to take you to get from Center City, Philadelphia, or point south to this area. And the reverse is true also, going in the reverse direction. So we believe that there's market share. How big a percentage it is difficult to determine at this early stage of the project, but we believe there's market share to get cars off the road, get people into a rail-oriented environment for transit, and move them to their destinations at the mall and the business park, where there are jobs. And there are likely to be more jobs and more opportunity for destinations that go to recreational and shopping experiences. We are at the public involvement phase for the second time. Many of you I recognize from the previous engagement or round of public meetings, which were held in January. And at that point, we were very early in the phasing of this project. We talked in a fair amount of generalizations as to what we were aspiring to do. We didn't show you as much detail as what is now available on the boards next door, largely because we hadn't spent enough time on it at that point. We held 3 meetings in particular and took a fair amount of public comment, and we expect to have a lot more public comment tonight and up until the 14th of August. We have a variety of project committees that SEPTA and the consultant team and stakeholders, of whom there are many, and I will give a call out to those players who are just as important in making this happen as SEPTA is. SEPTA is only the operator and the builder. We have stakeholders that include, obviously, Upper Merion Township, who are very supportive of this approach. We also have Montgomery County, who are also just as equally supportive. We have the King of Prussia Business Improvement District, who are a fantastic partner for us. They carry a lot of the advocacy role for ensuring that the business community understands what we're doing here and why it's so important for job growth and economic development and all the multiplier effects that go with it, that this project gets the right airing. We also have the Greater Valley Forge Transportation Management Association, a very long-standing, well-established and well-recognized and well-represented business community group who, and other stakeholder group, who are also very much behind us and have been very helpful on the political front in ensuring that elected officials are well aware of what's going on at this point. So I give those call-outs to all of those entities. I should also mention Delaware County as being a very strong supporter, even though this line does not literally, this branch line planning project does not involve Delaware County. It does involve a lot of constituents who live in Delaware County who actually work in this area, who take basically the trunk of the line of the Norristown high-speed line right now. Okay, so where are we? I'm sure a lot of you are asking that question. Well, here's the answer. We are in a several-year, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, planning project. We're at the DEIS, or the EIS, which stands for Environmental Impact Statement. It's part of the NEPA process. It's part of the planning process. It's part of the federal planning process. And one is a subset of the other, but they all are actually interconnected. So we're early on. We have a year, 2 to 2.5 to 3 years of this phasing. There's a lot of work that needs to be done with a lot of agencies, with the general public at large, with the elected officials, to ensure that we're all reaching the right consensus on what is the right alignment to get into the King of Prussia area and serve the best interests of all the stakeholders. Then you have the engineering phase, is down here. And as I said, that's another 3 years out, and then construction could be as much as another 3 or 4 years away. So a long-term plan to get to this phase down here. All right, at this point, I'm going to hand over to Shelley Fialkoff, who is the project director for AECOM, who is the lead player in the consultant assistance and direction on this project. And he's going to take over at this point and walk you through the alternatives development. Thank you.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me in the back? Okay. I thank everyone for coming out this afternoon and this evening for this presentation, given the heat and the All-Star game. We'll try to get you out as soon as possible. As I look at this turnout, I'm very happy. It means that we have been getting the word out. The long list of alternatives, which many of you have seen in the other room, was developed through previous studies that have been done, through speaking over the last 11 months with stakeholders and with public input through the 3 meetings we've had and comments we've had on the website, and from the team itself going out to the field and looking at the various ways of getting to the King of Prussia area from the Norristown high-speed line. What you see in front of you is our starting point. It is a collection of potential alignments of how to get to the King of Prussia area, the mall, and the corporate park, and how to circulate through it. In total, it comes out to about 30 alternatives. Let me run down quickly some of the pertinent parts, which include how we get off of the alternative of the high-speed line. Starting with the top, we called it the Abrams trunk line, and a little bit of explanation is necessary. Because this is a fairly complicated number of alternatives, we broke up how we were going to analyze these various components into trunks and branches, not unlike a tree. The trunk that I'll be referring to for the rest of most of the presentation constitutes how you get from the existing Norristown high-speed line to the area of the King of Prussia, including the corporate center and the mall. The branches are those alignments within the King of Prussia area of how you circulate through the King of Prussia area. You may see as we go along more than a branch being used more than once, and that's the nature of trees. Going back to our trunks that we started with, starting from the top, the yellow line you see here, we called Abrams Yard alignment, and this got us using 2 at-grade bridges that are owned by SEPTA onto an alignment that is owned by the Norfolk Southern right-of-way and is in use today. It's a freight line, and it's a backdoor into the King of Prussia area via an unused industrial tract also belonging to Norfolk Southern. Moving down the trunk, we next come to is called Route 202. It is in red. It is an alignment that would follow the existing Route 202 from, again, the Norristown high-speed line to a point approximately west of the Pennsylvania Turnpike. A third trunk we looked at was looking at a combination of PICO, which is the electric utility that services this area. It is where there are now a double set of towers with high voltage transmission lines on it. We would be in that utility area. And then when we got to the turnpike, essentially building on top of the turnpike, elevated structure, to approximately a point at 202, which you see here highlighted. Another trunk we looked at was, again, looking at PICO, but this time staying on the PICO alignment past the turnpike all the way to South Gulf Road. Moving further down, there was an alternative trunk that uses the turnpike coming off of the Hughes Park Station, going over the top of the Norfolk Southern Railroad and onto the turnpike up to, again, approximately Route 202 to the King of Prussia area. Another alternative further south was using the existing Morrisville freight line of Norfolk Southern, again, from the Norristown high-speed line to a point of South Gulf Road. And the last alternative, well, actually, another alternative was to use a portion of the turnpike and use a portion of the PICO. We call that the turnpike PICO alignment. The last alternative that we considered as a trunk was using I-76 from, again, the high-speed line up to a point just south of the 202. The branches we looked at similarly, basically how to circulate through the center and west and in between the area. How did we screen these? And what you saw today in the other room was the first of 3 screenings. We're here at the first screening, which is Tier 1, you saw in the next room. We have finished that and come up with what we call our draft or proposed alternatives. They're draft or proposed because we're presenting them tonight as part of the scoping process. They can be augmented as a result of this meeting and comments we receive from the public that may add more alternatives that have not been looked at in the long list, or through comments we receive between now and, as Bert has said, through August 14th, written in comments. The other 2 tiers that we're going to screen is after we go through this first tier, for now 12 alternatives and detail them more, we will screen them again, which is Tier 2. What we're going to be doing is identifying more detail about these alternatives that you will see tonight, including identifying stations. There were no stations identified on the alignments you saw tonight. Once we have stations, we will develop ridership projections using computer models of what each alternative would attract in terms of ridership and from where. Also identifying order of magnitude costs. Based on those evaluations, we would come into our third, which would be those alternatives that would be the subject of full environmental analysis. And at that point, we would have the final evaluation, which would identify a locally preferred alternative. That's our screening process. This is it in a series of pictorials. We're in Tier 1 screening now. This is a blow-up of that, and the criteria that we used was, does the alternatives meet the purpose and need? Are they reasonable to build and operate relative to the other alternatives that are being considered? And can the actual alternative fit within the right-of-way All of the alternatives we're looking at are using public right-of-ways, roadways, the turnpike, highways, and public utility, such as the PICO and the Norfolk Southern Freight Railroad. Tier 2, which is going to be in the future, again, as I noted before, we're going to look at ridership, cost of construction, potential impacts, and potential benefits. And in the final screening and the detailed of the environmental impact statement, we're going to be looking at costs, both capital and operating. We'll be looking at costs for building and operating on a per rider basis, looking at financial feasibility, which means can we build this and how do we fund it, and can we operate it and how do we fund the operation. Economic and land use benefits that would come from this alternatives or series of alternatives, and for purposes of qualifying for federal transit funding that might be available, quantification and evaluation of impacts and benefits. This is when the federal government says, well, tell me how good you are. Let's look at the trunks that we've screened to date. Again, we looked at from the top to bottom. Sorry. I have the same problem that Byron did. Too many buttons, not enough fingers. We looked at the Abrams Yard. We looked at the Route 202, PICO Turnpike, the Turnpike itself, Norfolk Southern, and I-76. We also looked at the branches. We looked at a whole list of branches, and we used this list of criteria. Basically, how we went through the evaluation is if any of the three criteria had a no to it, to our evaluation, it was eliminated. You only had to have one no out of three, and the alternative was eliminated. For the trunk lines, it had to pass the purpose and need. For the branches, it had to pass steps 2 and 3. Purpose and need was assumed or ready to be satisfied. From that analysis, and you saw that in the next room, and if you want to go after the presentation, go over the details that are on the boards there, we came up with 12 different independent alternatives that could solve the purpose and need and met the initial screening criteria. Individually, let's go over them. This is the 202 alternative. The 202 alternative is based upon an elevated structure along 202, and once you get to the Pennsylvania Turnpike, 2 of the 6 alternatives utilize the Pennsylvania Turnpike to get to the back of the mall, which is Willis Boulevard. They operate along Willis Boulevard into Mall Boulevard. At Mall Boulevard, the green line you see goes north, crosses the Turnpike again to reach the corporate park. At that point, it uses an abandoned Norfolk Southern single-track industrial track right-of-way, basically to make its way up to Valley Forge Road, where it would terminate. A second alternative, again, using the green line as noted here, would use that industrial track, but instead of going all the way up to Valley Forge, following a dotted line, it would make a U-turn and come back to First Avenue and Moore Road, and it would terminate at First Avenue and Moore Road. If we look at, again, the 202, there are 2 more alignments that go in front of the mall along 202, and at the western end of the mall, 1, which is in light blue, would curve around the mall using Mall Boulevard on the west side of the mall, and again cross the Turnpike into this abandoned freight right-of-way, and again, go up to West Valley Forge Road. The difference between the other one is one goes behind, and this one goes in front of the mall and continues on 202. There is a variation of that then goes over and operates along Gulf Road and goes up Gulf Road past this hotel, and it too would terminate in the area of West Valley Forge Road. The Valley Forge Road termination is based upon an assumption of serving both the towers, which is residential, as well as commercial offices that are in this area, as well as a potential park and ride lot that might be used for people on the 422. The study will look into these type of potentials. Finally, again, the 202, using the turnpike, instead of going across the turnpike using the rail track right-of-way, would circle back down this dark blue line and also use Gulf Road. This in total is 6 different alignments that we will be looking at potentially using the 202. The PICO alternatives, again, the PICO alignment is an electric utility right-of-way, currently has 2 sets of high-tension transmission towers, about 230,000 volts. We would be using that right-of-way, which is owned by PICO, to essentially come off of the high-speed line, come to South Gulf Road. The reddish orange that I'm highlighting would go around the west side of the mall. Again, I mentioned some of these branches are used more than once, and would go again across the turnpike and would use the Norfolk Southern rail right-of-way that's been abandoned and go up to West Valley Forge Road. Variation of that alternative, the second alternative, would only go halfway and again make a U-turn and come back to on Moore Road to First Avenue and terminate there. The third alternative would again circle west of the mall. It would go to North Gulf Road, operate along North Gulf Road, elevated, would come in front of the hotel here on North Gulf Road and go up to West Valley Forge Road. The last 3 alternatives is a combination of using the PICO alignment again up to the turnpike, and then using the turnpike to get up to 202 and the back of the mall, Willis Boulevard. Under this alignment, the dark green line you see here would again cross the turnpike into that unused Norfolk Southern freight rail right-of-way and go up again to West Valley Forge Road. Second alternative, the dotted line, would go to, again, Moore Road and First Avenue and terminate. These are 2 separate alternatives. And then the third alternative, the lime green alternative, would go again behind the mall using Mall Boulevard and then come down on the west side of the mall using Mall Boulevard generally and go up Gulf Road again to West Valley Forge Road. These 12 alternatives are presented tonight and again subject to what we hear tonight and from here until August 14th. These are the 12 alternatives that we would go forward and actually provide more detail and apply to the new screening. Subject to what we hear tonight, there may be alternatives that you identify or others between now and August 14th which might be added that have not been considered before. What are we going to do in the next phase? Essentially complete the Tier 1 screening as I noted before. The Tier 2 screening is basically identifying the stations for each of the alternatives that we're looking at, coming up with ridership numbers, understanding how well they attract riders and do the job of serving the King of Prussia area. We will look at order of magnitude costs at the level of detail we've developed, and we will be looking at potential impacts and benefits. We do want you to not only get involved, but stay involved. Your being here today is the fact that you are interested and you've gotten involved. We've reviewed the alternatives. We're looking for you now to provide feedback through comments, whether at the podium here, in written comment forms that are available in the next room, or over the next 2 or 3 weeks until August 14th, using comment forms or the website if something comes up that you thought about after. We do want to hear your comments. We want to understand your concerns. We want to make sure that you provide us your contact information so that we can make sure you receive project updates as the project proceeds over the next approximate year or so. After the meeting, the email to contact us is info@kingofprussiarail.com. Our website is www.kingofprussiarail.com, and we do have a Twitter at www.twitter.com/koprail. Please, you don't have to remember this. Information is in your packets. This time, I would like to thank all of you for participating tonight. Look forward to hearing your comments. Thank you again on behalf of the study team and SEPTA for being here.